Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is my first time doing something like this, and I'm really, really nervous. So I hope it was great. I grew up in Colombia as the youngest of five. I was raised by a single mother. We lived in a very poor neighborhood in Bogota. We didn't have much. But despite all of that, I realized that believing in yourself was a very important engine to find the strength that you need in life to achieve your dreams and ignore the context or the circumstances that you are born into. Now, let's think a little bit about the odds that stacked against me. Statistically, only 50% of students from Latin America get to complete their high school education. Now, I wasn't just from a low-income family in Latin America. I was from a single-parent household. Research tells us that children with single mothers have a 15% lower chance of completing the high school degree. Now, I was the youngest of five. By the time I came along, there were less time, less resources, and more pressure to help with whatever I could at home. Now, my mother was a cleaner, and she didn't even finish primary school because when she was a child, she was forced to work and help at home, and therefore the expectations that she had from her children were very similar. Despite all of this, I refused to accept that my circumstances will define me. I refuse to accept that my life will be endless circle of what can only be described as the poverty trap. There were nights where we didn't know if we will have enough food at the table or if my family could pay rent or pay the bills, etc. However, within all those struggles, I found a sparkle within me, something deep inside that told me that my circumstances wouldn't define me. And this belief made all the difference in my life. Now I'm here in Dublin telling my story, and I hope that I can persuade you that believing in yourself is the driving force that you really need to achieve your dreams. I remember when something massive, a massive breakthrough happened in my life. It was a moment so surreal that I still have trouble believing it happened. I received an email from an Australian family that I met briefly at a bus terminal in Bogota. They had no reason to help me. They didn't know my struggles or my stories or my circumstances. Yet they offered to sponsor my university fees. This was a life-changing opportunity for me because I was going to be able to study my dream bachelor's degree at one of the top universities in Colombia, something that I never thought possible for me or for anyone with coming from a background similar to mine. Of course, I doubted myself. I thought this was some sort of a joke. I didn't truly believe that. And the reason why I didn't truly believe that it was because I was being told that these opportunities wouldn't come for people like me. So allowing myself to believing in this was, I guess, the first step to moving forward the dreams and the life dream that you want. After the sponsorship, I thought my life will immediately change. For the first time in my life, I was going to be surrounded by people who had the opportunities that I didn't even thought possible. My classmates were people with generational wealth. They came with networks and knowledge that I didn't even know existed. At the time, I was feeling very unworthy, very insecure about my abilities and potential. And later in life, I will understand that this was a common phenomenon for everyone known as imposter syndrome. But then I realized that the shift that I needed, it wasn't external. It wasn't about proving myself to others or trying to fit in. It was how I view myself and the world around me. This is precisely the power of believing in yourself. The true shift came when we changed the way we see our abilities and potential. This whole experience of believing in yourself and I guess having faith in your own abilities and potential I wasn't really sure that I was conscious that this was something that I was doing purposely. However, that changed. I started doing something simple yet profoundly powerful. I started with a vision board. After my sponsorship and after my university degree, I graduated with cum laude honors in this university in Colombia, something that I never thought possible because I didn't have the advantage of a strong background education in high school, for example. I started putting dreams on my vision boards, dreams of traveling, of studying, gaining global education, and perhaps pursuing an international career. And sure enough, 1 year later, after I finished my bachelor's degree, I received an Erasmus scholarship to pursue a master's degree here in UCD in international relations. This was a massive breakthrough for me because my vision board had actually worked. I wasn't sure how it did it or how it happened. I just knew it happened and it was real. Fast forward a couple of years later, and then COVID came. COVID obviously froze everything around us, not only for me, but for everyone. But instead of retreating from uncertainty, I leaned into it. During COVID, I received another life-changing offer. I received a full fellowship from Hopkins University to pursue an MBA. Let's think about it for a second. COVID was shutting down dreams, economies, entire countries. However, many people were able to seize opportunities in the middle of that chaos. And that's when I learned that opportunities will find a way to you even in the most unexpected times. Of course, it takes discipline, perseverance, and this is not about good luck or toxic positivity. This is about aligning your actions with your goals. I believe the problem with this whole concept of believing in yourself is that everyone has an advice to offer. Everyone has a piece to give or an advice to give you that you should try this, you should try that, you should try journaling, you should try meditation, you should try religion. And the reality is that you should trust your own voice. You should listen to your own path and take action from that place of belief. I realized that one of the most challenging things was to forget about my background and being able to capitalize upon what I have achieved. When you grow up in a place like where I come from, where corruption, violence, conflict are part of the daily life, it becomes easy to accept that this is just the way life is. Not to mention gender inequalities or other elements that are part of our society. So when you forget about this and you focus on what you really want to achieve in life, when you find that strength and you give that first step towards the dreams that you want, that's when small things can start to take shape and small things can start to take place. I want to leave you with a very short, thought. And I want to ask you, what is that one thing that you ever dreamed, but never thought possible? Why don't you start writing on it, taking small actions toward it when you feel ready for it? Believing in yourself isn't just motivational fluff, or visualization isn't just motivational bluff. There is actually research on visualization in psychology that shows that taking your first step towards visualization and living your dream in vivid detail, thinking about it, can actually accelerate the chances of success. Now, whether it is setting a playlist for motivation or putting a vision board or just tackling the challenges ahead on, the power of believing in yourself can really, really increase the chances of success that you have in life. Now, if I've been able to persuade you about the power that believing in ourselves can give us, even a tiny bit, I'll be very happy to reflect on these very personal details that I never thought I would be confident enough to share. So thank you for your time and thank you for listening.